The crystal chandelier cast dancing shadows across the elegant ballroom as guests celebrated the Torres family wedding. Laughter mixed with classical music and champagne glasses clinked in cheerful toasts. Near the elaborate dessert table, a small figure moved carefully with her pink walker, her dark hair adorned with a matching ribbon. 7-year-old Sophie Torres had been looking forward to the wedding cake all evening. Her father had promised she could have an extra piece since it was a special family celebration. She navigated slowly between the adults, her cerebral palsy making each step deliberate but determined. "Excuse me," Sophie whispered politely as she tried to reach the dessert table. The woman in front of her wore a stunning silver gown that probably cost more than most people's cars. Patricia Blackwood turned around with irritation already written across her perfectly made-up face. Her diamond earrings caught the light as she looked down at the little girl. "Watch where you're going," Patricia snapped, even though Sophie hadn't touched her. Sophie's walker accidentally bumped the edge of the tablecloth as she tried to back away from the angry woman. A few drops of punch splashed onto Patricia's dress, creating tiny dark spots on the expensive fabric. Patricia's eyes blazed with fury. "Look what you've done, you clumsy little thing. This dress costs more than your father makes in a month." "I'm sorry," Sophie whispered, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean to." "Sorry doesn't clean expensive silk," Patricia hissed, stepping closer to the frightened child. "Someone like you shouldn't even be here. You're just going to ruin everything for normal people." Tears started rolling down Sophie's cheeks. She tried to move away but Patricia grabbed her walker, stopping her escape. "Maybe if your parents had been more careful, you wouldn't be such a burden to everyone around you," Patricia continued, her voice growing louder. "Do you know how uncomfortable you make people feel? Nobody wants to look at someone like you at a beautiful event." Other guests nearby pretended to be engrossed in conversations, deliberately avoiding the cruel scene. Some looked uncomfortable but said nothing. A few even nodded in agreement with Patricia's horrible words. "Please let me go," Sophie sobbed, trying to pull her walker away. "I'm not done talking to you," Patricia said, tightening her grip. "Your father should be ashamed of himself for bringing you here. You're an embarrassment to this entire family." Sophie's small body shook with silent sobs. She looked around desperately for her father, but he was nowhere to be seen. The other adults continued to ignore her pain, leaving her alone with this cruel woman who seemed determined to destroy her spirit. "Stop crying," Patricia demanded. "You're making a scene. Although I suppose that's what people like you do best, isn't it? Make everything about yourselves and your problems." The little girl's quiet tears turned into heartbroken sobs that echoed through the nearby area of the ballroom. Still, not one adult stepped forward to help her. Have you ever wondered what kind of person stands by and watches a child being bullied? What would you do if you saw this happening? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that matter. Patricia leaned closer to Sophie, her voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "If you don't stop that crying right now, I'm going to tell your father exactly what a disruption you've been. Maybe he'll finally realize he should have left you at home where you belong." Sophie tried to muffle her sobs with her small hands, but the damage was already done. Her special evening had turned into a nightmare, and she felt more alone than ever before. The beautiful ballroom suddenly felt cold and hostile, filled with people who saw her as nothing more than an inconvenience. The music continued playing, and guests continued dancing, completely oblivious to the cruelty happening just a few feet away. Sophie closed her eyes tight and wished she could disappear, or that anyone would come to help her. Patricia stood over the trembling child like a predator cornering its prey, ready to deliver another cruel blow with her words. The woman's face showed no mercy, no understanding of the pain she was causing to an innocent 7-year-old girl who had done nothing wrong except exist in a world that sometimes seemed too harsh for gentle souls. In that moment, Sophie felt smaller and more vulnerable than she ever had before. The wedding that was supposed to be a celebration of love and family had become the setting for one of the cruelest moments of her young life. She wondered if this was how the world would always treat her, and if she would ever find someone brave enough to stand up for her when she couldn't stand up for herself. The chandelier continued to sparkle overhead, the music played on, and the cruel woman prepared to deliver another verbal blow to the defenseless child who just wanted to be treated with kindness. Naomi Washington had been managing events for 5 years, but she had never seen anything as disgusting as what was happening at the dessert table. She had been checking on the catering arrangements when she heard the first cruel words directed at the little girl with the walker. As the head event coordinator, Naomi was supposed to handle problems discreetly and professionally. But watching a grown woman bully a disabled child was not something she could handle with professional distance. Her heart broke as she saw the little girl's tears and heard the vicious words being thrown at her. Without thinking about her job or the consequences, Naomi walked quickly toward the scene. Her comfortable black heels clicked against the marble floor as she approached the woman in the silver dress who was still tormenting the crying child. "Is there a problem here?" Naomi asked in a calm but firm voice. Patricia looked up with annoyance. "Yes, there is a problem. This child damaged my dress and is now making a spectacle of herself. Where are her parents?" Naomi looked down at Sophie, whose tear-stained face looked up at her with desperate hope. The little girl's brown eyes pleaded silently for help, and Naomi felt something protective and fierce rise up inside her chest. "She's my daughter," Naomi said clearly, placing a gentle hand on Sophie's shoulder. Patricia's eyebrows shot up. "Your daughter? That's impossible." "Why is that impossible?" Naomi asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Because you're—" Patricia gestured vaguely at Naomi's appearance, clearly struggling with her own prejudice and confusion. "Because I'm what?" Naomi challenged, moving closer to Sophie protectively. Patricia seemed to realize she was about to say something that would make her look even worse in front of the other guests who were now paying attention. She changed tactics. "Well, you need to control her better. She ruined my dress." Naomi looked at the tiny spots on Patricia's gown that were barely visible. "I see a few small drops that will come out easily with dry cleaning. I'd be happy to pay for that service." "That's not the point," Patricia snapped. "Then what is the point?" Naomi asked, gently pulling Sophie closer to her side. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like an adult woman is attacking a 7-year-old child over an accident." Sophie looked up at Naomi with wonder and gratitude. This beautiful woman with kind eyes and a gentle voice was standing up for her when no one else would. "The point is that some people don't belong at events like this," Patricia said, glaring at both Naomi and Sophie. "You're absolutely right," Naomi agreed, looking Patricia straight in the eye. "People who bully children definitely don't belong at family celebrations." A few nearby guests gasped softly at Naomi's bold response. Patricia's face turned red with embarrassment and anger. "How dare you speak to me that way? Do you know who I am?" "Someone who thinks her bank account gives her the right to be cruel to children," Naomi replied calmly. "And someone who's about to learn that money can't buy class or kindness." Naomi knelt down to Sophie's level, speaking in a soft, warm voice. "Hey sweetie, are you okay? Did you get hurt?" Sophie shook her head, still sniffling. "She said mean things about me." "I know, baby girl. But you know what? Some people say mean things when they're unhappy inside. That doesn't make their words true." Naomi reached into her purse and pulled out a pack of tissues. "Let's clean up these tears and get you some cake like you wanted." "But I made a mess," Sophie whispered. "Accidents happen to everyone," Naomi said gently. "That's why they're called accidents. You didn't do anything wrong." Patricia watched this interaction with growing frustration. "This is ridiculous. I demand to speak to her real parents immediately." "You're looking at her real mother," Naomi said, standing up and placing her arm around Sophie's shoulders. "And I think our conversation is finished." "This won't be the end of this," Patricia threatened before storming away in her slightly stained dress. Sophie looked up at Naomi with eyes full of trust and affection. "Are you really going to be my mama?" Naomi's heart melted at the innocent question. She didn't know who this child really belonged to, but in this moment she felt more maternal toward Sophie than toward anyone else in her life. "For right now, I'm going to take care of you," Naomi promised. "Let's find a quiet place where we can sit down and talk." She guided Sophie away from the dessert table and the staring guests, toward a small alcove with comfortable chairs overlooking the garden. Sophie moved slowly with her walker, but Naomi matched her pace patiently. "What's your real name, sweetie?" Naomi asked as they settled into the chairs. "Sophie Torres," the little girl answered. "What's yours?" "I'm Naomi Washington. And you know what, Sophie? You're one of the bravest little girls I've ever met." Sophie's face lit up with the first genuine smile Naomi had seen from her. "Really? Really? It takes courage to be kind in a world that isn't always kind back." As they sat together in the peaceful alcove, Naomi wondered where Sophie's real parents were and how they would react when they found their daughter with a complete stranger. But for now, all that mattered was making sure this precious child felt safe and loved. Gabriel Torres had been searching the ballroom for 10 minutes, his concern growing with each passing moment. He had left Sophie near the dessert table with strict instructions to stay in that area, but when he returned from his conversation with business associates, she was nowhere to be found. The wedding reception was loud and crowded. making it difficult to spot one small girl among hundreds of guests. Gabriel moved through the crowd systematically, checking every corner and conversation group. His brother's wedding was important, but nothing mattered more than making sure Sophie was safe. As the founder and CEO of Taurus Tech Solutions, Gabriel was used to solving problems quickly and efficiently. But finding one lost child in a sea of formalware was proving more challenging than closing million-dollar business deals. "Have you seen a little girl with a pink walker?" he asked a group of family friends. "Oh, you mean the one who was causing a scene at the dessert table?" one woman replied. "Some woman claimed to be her mother and took her away." Gabriel's blood ran cold. Someone had taken Sophie? His mind immediately went to the worst-case scenarios. Who would claim to be Sophie's mother and why? "Which direction did they go?" he asked urgently. "Toward the garden area, I think," the woman replied. Though honestly it was quite dramatic. The child was crying terribly. Gabriel's protective instincts kicked into high gear as he headed toward the garden alcoves. His daughter had been crying, and some stranger had claimed to be her mother. Nothing about this situation made sense, but he needed to find Sophie immediately. As he approached the quiet seating area overlooking the garden, he heard familiar voices, Sophie's distinctive laugh mixing with a woman's gentle tone. Gabriel paused behind a decorative column, wanting to assess the situation before revealing himself. "And then the butterfly landed right on my walker," Sophie was saying with excitement. "Daddy said it was because butterflies like pretty colors and my walker is pink." "Your daddy sounds very smart," the unknown woman replied warmly. "Butterflies do love bright, beautiful things. Just like how they were attracted to you tonight." Gabriel peered around the corner and saw his daughter sitting comfortably next to a beautiful African-American woman in a professional black dress. Sophie looked completely relaxed and happy, nothing like the crying child the wedding guest had described. "Naomi, can I ask you something?" Sophie said softly. "Of course, sweetie. You can ask me anything." "Why was that lady so mean to me? I try really hard to be good." Gabriel's jaw tightened as he realized someone had been cruel to his daughter. He stepped closer, staying hidden but making sure he could hear every word. "Oh, Sophie," Naomi said gently, reaching over to smooth the child's hair. "You're good. You're more than good, you're wonderful. Sometimes grown-ups forget how to be kind, especially when they're worried more about things than about people. But she said I don't belong at nice places like this." "That woman was wrong," Naomi said firmly. "You belong anywhere your family wants you to be. You belong in beautiful places because you're a beautiful person inside and out." Gabriel felt his throat tighten with emotion. This stranger was giving his daughter the comfort and reassurance he wished he could have provided in that moment of crisis. "I wish you could be my mama for real," Sophie said quietly. "You make me feel safe." "You know what?" Naomi replied. "Family isn't just about who you're born to. Family is about who takes care of you and loves you. And right now, in this moment, I care about you very much." Gabriel had heard enough. This woman, whoever she was, had not only protected his daughter but was actively healing the emotional wounds that someone else had inflicted. Instead of feeling threatened by her presence with Sophie, he felt overwhelmingly grateful. He stepped out from behind the column and approached them slowly. Both Sophie and Naomi looked up as they heard his footsteps. "Daddy," Sophie called out with relief and joy. "This is Naomi. She protected me from the mean lady and she's been taking care of me." Gabriel looked at Naomi, who appeared slightly nervous about being discovered with someone else's child. Her eyes showed concern about how he might react to finding his daughter with a stranger. "I can explain," Naomi started to say, beginning to stand up. "Please don't," Gabriel said gently, raising his hand. "Don't explain anything yet. First, I need to say thank you." Naomi blinked in surprise. "Thank you? You protected my daughter when she needed help and you've been taking care of her. I heard what you told her about belonging and about family." Gabriel's voice was thick with emotion. "I don't know what happened with the mean lady you mentioned, but I know you stepped in when Sophie needed someone." Sophie beamed at both adults. "Daddy, Naomi said she was my mama so the mean lady would leave me alone." Gabriel looked at Naomi with even deeper appreciation. "You lied to protect her?" "I did what I had to do," Naomi said simply. "No child should have to face cruelty alone." Gabriel felt something shift in his chest as he looked at this woman who had shown his daughter such immediate and unconditional kindness. In his world of business deals and carefully calculated relationships, finding someone who acted purely from compassion was rare and precious. "I'm Gabriel Torres," he said, extending his hand to Naomi. "And I'm very grateful to meet you." "Naomi Washington," she replied, shaking his hand. I coordinate events here and I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I don't think it was just coincidence, Gabriel said, looking between Naomi and Sophie. I think you were exactly where you needed to be. Gabriel settled into the chair across from Naomi and Sophie, his mind processing everything he had just learned. The peaceful garden alcove felt like a sanctuary away from the noise and complexity of the wedding reception. Can you tell me what happened with this mean lady? Gabriel asked gently, dividing his attention between his daughter and the woman who had protected her. Sophie's face grew serious as she remembered the encounter. I was trying to get some cake and I accidentally bumped the table a little bit. The lady in the shiny dress got really mad. Her name is Patricia Blackwood, Naomi added. She was verbally attacking Sophie when I arrived. Calling her names, saying she didn't belong here, making comments about her disability. Gabriel's hands clenched into fists before he consciously relaxed them. He had worked hard to create a world where Sophie felt valued and accepted, but he couldn't protect her from every cruel person they might encounter. I'm so sorry that happened to you, Princess, Gabriel said to Sophie. That woman was wrong about everything she said. I know, Daddy. Naomi already told me that, Sophie replied with a smile. She said family is about who loves you, not just who you're born to. Gabriel looked at Naomi with curiosity and appreciation. That's a beautiful way to think about it. I believe it, Naomi said simply. Sophie is lucky to have a father who brings her to family celebrations and makes sure she feels included. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing enough, Gabriel admitted. The world can be harsh and I can't always be there to shield her from it. But you're raising her to be strong and kind, Naomi observed. I could see that immediately in how she carries herself and how she talks about you. Sophie leaned against her father's arm. Daddy, can Naomi come have dinner with us sometime? She's really nice and she makes me feel happy. Gabriel looked at Naomi, who appeared touched but uncertain about the invitation. I would love to take you to dinner, he said sincerely. As a thank you for what you did tonight. That's very kind, but you don't need to thank me, Naomi replied. Anyone would have done the same thing. No, they wouldn't have, Gabriel said firmly. I heard from other guests that people saw what was happening and chose not to get involved. You chose differently. I couldn't just stand by and watch a child being hurt, Naomi said. It's not in my nature. Gabriel studied Naomi's face, noting the genuine warmth in her eyes and the natural way she interacted with Sophie. What do you do when you're not coordinating events and rescuing children? Naomi smiled. I run a small event planning company with my best friend. We specialize in making celebrations special for families, especially families who might need extra consideration for accessibility or special circumstances. Like families with children who have disabilities? Gabriel asked. Exactly. We believe every child deserves to feel celebrated and included. Naomi looked at Sophie affectionately. Every family should be able to focus on joy instead of worrying about whether their child will be welcome. Sophie's eyes lit up. That sounds like the best job ever. I love what I do, Naomi agreed. Though tonight was definitely more exciting than usual. Gabriel laughed, the first genuine laugh he'd had all evening. I imagine finding a lost child and standing up to Patricia Blackwood wasn't on your event coordinator checklist. Definitely not, Naomi said with a grin. But it was worth it to meet this amazing little girl. Sophie practically glowed at the compliment. Daddy, I really like Naomi. She listened to me and she wasn't scared of the mean lady. I can see why you like her, Gabriel said, looking at Naomi with growing interest. She seems pretty special to me too. Naomi felt warmth spread through her chest at his words. There was something incredibly attractive about a man who put his child first and who appreciated kindness in others. So about that dinner, Gabriel continued. Would Friday evening work for you? I know a place that has excellent food and is very welcoming to children with special needs. You really don't have to, Naomi protested gently. I want to, Gabriel said. Besides, Sophie will never forgive me if I don't follow through on her dinner invitation. Sophie nodded enthusiastically. Please say yes, Naomi. We can talk more about butterflies and nice things. Naomi looked at the hopeful faces of both father and daughter and felt her resistance melting away. Okay, Friday evening sounds lovely. Perfect, Gabriel said, pulling out his phone. Can I get your number so I can text you the restaurant details? As they exchanged contact information, Naomi felt a flutter of excitement about seeing them again. There was something special about this father and daughter that went beyond their initial meeting. We should probably get back to the reception, Gabriel said eventually. But first, Sophie, do you want to thank Naomi properly for taking care of you tonight? Sophie stood up carefully with her walker and moved closer to Naomi. "Thank you for being my pretend mama when I needed one. You're the nicest person I ever met." Naomi leaned down and hugged Sophie gently. "It was my honor to take care of you, sweetie. You're going to do amazing things in this world." As they prepared to return to the wedding celebration, Gabriel realized that this unexpected encounter might have changed his life in ways he couldn't yet understand. The woman walking beside him had shown his daughter unconditional kindness, and something about her presence made him feel hopeful about possibilities he hadn't considered in years. Friday evening arrived with perfect weather and Gabriel's nervous energy. He had chosen Bella Vista, a family restaurant known for its accessibility features and patient staff. As he helped Sophie out of the car, he found himself checking his appearance in the reflection of the restaurant windows. "Daddy, you look handsome," Sophie assured him, noticing his unusual attention to his outfit. "Naomi is going to think you look very nice." "Thank you, Princess," Gabriel said, adjusting his casual blazer. "I just want to make a good impression." "You already did," Sophie said wisely. "She likes us because we're kind, remember?" Inside the restaurant, they found Naomi already waiting at a corner table that provided easy access for Sophie's walker. She had chosen a soft blue dress that brought out her eyes, and her warm smile immediately put both Torres family members at ease. "You look beautiful," Gabriel said as they approached the table. "Thank you," Naomi replied, then turned to Sophie. "And you look absolutely lovely in that purple dress. Purple is my favorite color." "Really?" Sophie asked excitedly as Gabriel helped her into her chair. "It's my second favorite. Pink is first because that's the color of my walker." "Pink is a wonderful choice too," Naomi agreed. "Strong colors for a strong girl." As they settled in and ordered their meals, the conversation flowed naturally. Gabriel found himself sharing stories about his journey as a single father, while Naomi talked about building her event planning business from the ground up. "How long have you been on your own with Sophie?" Naomi asked gently. 3 years now," Gabriel replied, cutting up Sophie's chicken into smaller pieces without thinking about it. "Her mother and I divorced when Sophie was 4. The disability diagnosis was difficult for my ex-wife to accept." "I'm sorry," Naomi said sincerely. "That must have been incredibly hard for both of you." "It was challenging," Gabriel admitted. "But honestly, it also clarified what really mattered. Sophie and I became a team and we've been figuring things out together ever since." Sophie nodded seriously. "Daddy and I are best friends. He reads me stories every night and helps me with my exercises." "Physical therapy?" Naomi asked. 3 times a week, Gabriel confirmed. "Sophie works incredibly hard to build her strength and coordination. She's made amazing progress." "I can walk without my walker for short distances now," Sophie said proudly. "Want to see?" Before Gabriel could object, Sophie was carefully standing up and taking a few steps toward Naomi's chair. Her movements were slow and deliberate, but she moved with determination and grace. "That's incredible, Sophie," Naomi said with genuine admiration. "You're so strong and brave." Sophie beamed as she made her way back to her father's side. "Daddy says I can do anything I set my mind to." "Your daddy is absolutely right," Naomi agreed, looking at Gabriel with respect. "You're raising an amazing daughter." "She makes it easy," Gabriel said, his love for Sophie evident in every word. "She teaches me something new about resilience and joy every single day." As their dinner progressed, Naomi found herself sharing her own dreams and aspirations. "I've always wanted to open a community center for children with special needs and their families. A place where kids like Sophie could come for after-school programs, adaptive sports, art classes, things like that." Gabriel leaned forward with interest. "Tell me more about this idea." "Well, there aren't many places that truly cater to children with disabilities and their unique needs," Naomi explained. "Most programs are either too basic or too clinical. I envision something that's fun and supportive, where kids can just be kids while getting the specific help they need." "That sounds wonderful," Sophie said. "Could I come to a place like that?" "You would be exactly the kind of person I'd want to serve," Naomi told her. "Smart, determined kids who just need the right environment to thrive." Gabriel was impressed by the passion in Naomi's voice and the thoughtfulness of her vision. "Have you written a business plan for this center?" "I've been working on one for months," Naomi admitted. "The hardest part is finding investors who understand the need and believe in the mission." "Most investors want quick returns," Gabriel observed. "Community service projects require patient capital and people who care about impact over immediate profit." "Exactly," Naomi agreed. "It's frustrating because I know there's a real need, but it's hard to make the financial case to people who only see dollar signs. Gabriel found himself mentally calculating the potential costs and revenue streams for such a venture. As a successful entrepreneur, he understood both the challenges and possibilities Naomi was describing. "What would be your ideal timeline for opening something like this?" he asked. "If I could secure funding and find the right location, maybe 18 months, Naomi said hopefully. "But realistically, it might take years to get all the pieces in place." Sophie had been listening intently to this conversation. "Daddy, you should help Naomi build her center. You're really good at building things." Gabriel smiled at his daughter's simple logic. "I build computer programs, princess, not buildings." "But you could help anyway, right?" Sophie persisted. "Maybe I could," Gabriel said thoughtfully, looking at Naomi. "I'd love to see your business plan sometime if you'd be willing to share it." Naomi's eyes widened with surprise. "You'd really be interested in looking at it?" "Absolutely. I'm always interested in projects that could make a real difference in children's lives." Gabriel paused, then added, "And I'm interested in anything that matters to you." The warmth in his voice made Naomi's heart skip a beat. She was attracted to Gabriel's obvious dedication to his daughter, but she was also beginning to see the intelligent, compassionate man beneath the successful businessman exterior. As they finished their meal and prepared to leave, Sophie yawned widely. "This was the best dinner ever," she announced. "Can we do it again soon?" "I'd like that very much," Naomi said, looking at Gabriel for confirmation. "So would I," Gabriel replied. "Maybe next time we could cook dinner at our house. Sophie makes excellent chocolate chip cookies." "With lots of chocolate chips," Sophie added importantly. As they said goodbye in the restaurant parking lot, Gabriel felt reluctant to end the evening. "Thank you for dinner and for sharing your dreams with us. I meant what I said about the business plan." "Thank you for listening and for being so supportive," Naomi replied. "Tonight has been really special." As Gabriel drove Sophie home, his daughter's sleepy voice came from the back seat. "Daddy, I think Naomi likes us as much as we like her." "I think you might be right, princess," Gabriel said, feeling more hopeful about the future than he had in years. 2 weeks after their dinner, Gabriel found himself looking forward to Naomi's daily text messages more than his morning coffee. What had started as coordination for weekend plans had evolved into conversations about everything from Sophie's school projects to Naomi's latest event planning challenges. "Ms. Rodriguez said I did the best presentation in class about butterflies," Sophie announced as Gabriel picked her up from school on a Wednesday afternoon. "That's wonderful, princess. What made it so special?" "I told everyone about the butterfly we saw at Uncle James's wedding, and how Naomi explained why they like bright colors," Sophie said proudly. "Can we call Naomi and tell her?" Gabriel smiled as he reached for his phone. Sophie's attachment to Naomi had grown stronger with each interaction, and Gabriel was finding his own feelings deepening as well. "Naomi," Sophie said excitedly when the call connected. "I got an A on my butterfly presentation and I told everyone about you." "That's amazing, sweetie," Naomi's warm voice came through the car speakers. "I'm so proud of you. What did you tell them about me?" "That you're really smart and kind, and that you taught me about why butterflies like pretty things," Sophie explained. "And I said you're going to build a place where kids like me can go to have fun and learn things." Gabriel heard Naomi's soft laugh. "You're going to make me cry happy tears, Sophie? Thank you for sharing our story with your class." "Daddy has been working on his computer a lot this week," Sophie continued. "He says he's reading about your center idea." "Sophie," Gabriel said with gentle warning, not wanting his daughter to pressure Naomi. "It's okay," Naomi assured him. "I'm curious about what you think of the business plan I sent you." Gabriel had spent hours reviewing Naomi's detailed proposal for the Sunshine Community Center. Her research was thorough, her programming ideas were innovative, and her financial projections were realistic. Most importantly, her passion for serving families like his own came through on every page. "I think it's brilliant," Gabriel said honestly. "You've identified a real gap in services, and your approach is both practical and compassionate." "Really?" Naomi's voice carried a note of disbelief. "You don't think I'm being too idealistic?" "Not at all. Some of the best businesses start with idealistic visions that get refined through practical experience," Gabriel replied. "Have you thought about starting with a pilot program to test some of your concepts?" "I've considered it, but I wasn't sure how to structure something smaller scale." "What if we set up a meeting to talk through some possibilities?" Gabriel suggested. "I have some ideas about how you might be able to test your programming without needing a full facility right away." Sophie clapped her hands together. "Daddy, are you going to help Naomi for real?" If she wants my help, I'd be honored to be involved, Gabriel said. I would love your help, Naomi said softly. I've been working on this dream alone for so long, having someone to brainstorm with would mean everything. They arranged to meet at a coffee shop on Saturday morning while Sophie attended her weekly art class. Gabriel arrived early and secured a quiet corner table, spreading out printed copies of Naomi's business plan and his own notes. When Naomi walked in wearing jeans and a soft yellow sweater, Gabriel felt the same flutter of attraction he experienced every time he saw her. But today he was also excited to share his professional expertise with someone whose mission he genuinely believed in. You really did your homework, Naomi said, sitting down and looking at his detailed notes. Your plan inspired me, Gabriel admitted. I kept thinking about Sophie and other kids who could benefit from what you want to create. For the next 2 hours, they worked through Gabriel's suggestions for a pilot program. He proposed starting with weekend workshops held in rented spaces, testing different programming approaches and building a reputation in the community. If you start small, you can perfect your methods and build relationships with families before committing to a large facility, Gabriel explained. Plus, it would give you data to show potential investors that there's real demand for your services. Naomi was taking notes as fast as she could write. This makes so much sense. Why didn't I think of starting smaller? Because you're thinking like a visionary, not a business strategist, Gabriel said with a smile. Both perspectives are important, but they serve different purposes. How do you know so much about this stuff? Naomi asked, genuinely curious about Gabriel's background. I started Taurus Tech in my garage 7 years ago with a business loan and a lot of hope, Gabriel shared. I made every mistake you can possibly make in the first 2 years, but I learned that the best way to test an idea is to start doing it on a small scale. And now you're a millionaire, Naomi said, though without any hint of gold-digging interest. Now I'm a father who wants to create a better world for his daughter, Gabriel corrected gently. The money is just a tool to make that possible. As they wrapped up their planning session, Naomi felt more optimistic about her dreams than she had in months. Gabriel, I can't thank you enough for taking this seriously and helping me think it through. I should be thanking you, Gabriel replied. Working on this with you has reminded me why I started my company in the first place. I got so focused on growth and profits that I forgot about the mission. What was your original mission? To create technology that solves real problems for real people, Gabriel said. Your center does exactly that, just in a different field. As they prepared to leave the coffee shop, Gabriel felt nervous about bringing up a topic that had been on his mind all week. Naomi, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Would you be interested in going out with me sometime? Just the two of us, not as a business meeting or a thank you dinner. Gabriel's confident businessman demeanor gave way to vulnerable honesty. I really like you and I'd love the chance to get to know you better. Naomi's smile was radiant. I would love that, Gabriel. I really like you too. The question she had been wondering about hit her again now. How would this work with the differences between their lifestyles and the fact that he was clearly wealthy while she was still building her business? But looking at his sincere expression, she decided to trust in the genuine connection they had been building. Saturday evening? Gabriel suggested. I'll plan something special. I can't wait, Naomi replied, meaning every word. Have you ever found yourself falling for someone whose life seems completely different from yours? What advice would you give Naomi about taking this leap of faith? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more heartwarming love stories. Saturday evening arrived with Gabriel more nervous than he had been before any business presentation. He had chosen to take Naomi to the rooftop garden of the Meridian Hotel, a place that offered beautiful city views without being overly formal or intimidating. Naomi looked stunning in a flowing emerald dress that complemented her warm skin tone perfectly. Gabriel wore a simple button-down shirt and dark jeans, having deliberately chosen a more casual look to help them both feel comfortable. This is gorgeous, Naomi said as they were seated at a table surrounded by twinkling lights and flowering plants. How did you find this place? I brought Sophie here for lunch a few months ago because she wanted to see the butterfly garden they have up here, Gabriel explained. She said it reminded her of a fairy tale. Everything comes back to Sophie with you, Naomi observed with a smile. I love how much you adore her. She's taught me what unconditional love really means, Gabriel said simply. Before she was born, I thought love was about finding someone perfect. She showed me that love is about accepting someone completely and helping them become their best self. Naomi felt her heart flutter at his words. That's beautiful. And it shows in how confident and happy Sophie is despite the challenges she faces. As they shared appetizers and talked about their childhoods, Gabriel found himself opening up in ways he rarely did with anyone. I was actually a pretty selfish person before Sophie came along, he admitted. Focused entirely on building my company and proving I could be successful. What changed? Naomi asked. The divorce was a wake-up call, Gabriel said honestly. When Elena left, she said I cared more about Sophie's condition than I cared about her feelings. She wasn't wrong. I was so focused on getting Sophie the best care and fighting for her rights that I forgot to support my wife through her own struggles with the situation. Naomi reached across the table and touched Gabriel's hand gently. That must have been incredibly painful for all of you. It was. But it also forced me to really examine what kind of person and father I wanted to be, Gabriel continued. I realized that all the money and success in the world means nothing if you don't have people to share it with who truly matter to you. Is that why you're so interested in helping with my community center project? Partly, Gabriel said, turning his hand over to hold Naomi's. But mostly it's because I believe in what you're trying to do and I believe in you. The sincerity in his voice made Naomi's breath catch. Gabriel, I need to be honest about something. Sometimes I worry that we're too different. You're this successful businessman who can afford rooftop dinners and private schools, and I'm still trying to build something from nothing. Do you think those differences matter to Sophie? Gabriel asked gently. No, but Sophie is 7 years old. She doesn't think about things like social class and financial security. Maybe we could learn something from her perspective, Gabriel suggested. What if we focused on how we feel when we're together instead of worrying about what other people might think about our backgrounds? Naomi considered his words as she looked out over the city lights. How do you feel when we're together? Like I can be completely myself, Gabriel answered without hesitation. Like you see the father and the man, not just the businessman. You make me want to be better, kinder, more present. You make me feel valuable and heard, Naomi replied. Like my dreams matter and my opinions are worth listening to. Most people see my work as just party planning, but you understand that I'm trying to build something meaningful. Gabriel squeezed her hand gently. Your dreams do matter. And what you're building will change lives. As their dinner continued, the conversation turned to lighter topics. Gabriel told funny stories about Sophie's latest attempts to convince him to get a pet butterfly, while Naomi shared tales from her most challenging wedding events. So the bride's mother insisted that we rearrange the entire seating chart 15 minutes before the ceremony because she decided she didn't like where her ex-husband was sitting, Naomi laughed. I had to sprint around moving place cards while wearing 4-inch heels. Did you manage to fix it? Barely. But the mother was so grateful that she recommended my services to 6 other families. Sometimes the most difficult clients end up being your best advertising. Gabriel admired Naomi's ability to find positive outcomes in stressful situations. You have an amazing talent for making the best of challenging circumstances. I learned it from necessity, Naomi said. Growing up with a single mother who worked 2 jobs taught me that you can either let difficulties defeat you or you can find ways to make them work for you. Tell me about your mother. Naomi's expression softened with affection. She was incredible. Worked as a nurse during the day and cleaned offices at night to pay for my college education. She always said that helping people was the most important thing you could do with your life. She sounds like where you got your compassionate heart. She died 2 years ago, Naomi said quietly. Cancer. But she got to see me start my business and she was so proud that I was following her example of serving others. Gabriel felt a deep respect for the woman who had raised Naomi to be so caring and strong. I'm sorry for your loss. She clearly did an amazing job raising you. Thank you. I think she would have loved Sophie, Naomi said with a smile. She always had a special place in her heart for children who needed extra support. As the evening wound down, Gabriel walked Naomi to her car in the hotel parking garage. The night air was cool and comfortable, and neither of them seemed eager to end their time together. I had a wonderful time tonight, Naomi said as they reached her car. So did I, Gabriel replied, stepping closer to her. Naomi, I know we've only known each other for a few weeks, but I feel like we have something really special developing here. I feel it too, Naomi admitted, looking up into his warm brown eyes. Gabriel reached up to gently touch her cheek. I'd like to see where this could go if you're willing to take the chance with me. Instead of answering with words, Naomi stood on her tiptoes and kissed him softly. The kiss was gentle and full of promise, a perfect ending to a perfect evening. When they separated, Gabriel rested his forehead against hers. I'll take that as a yes. Definitely a yes, Naomi whispered. As Gabriel watched Naomi drive away, he felt a happiness and hope that he hadn't experienced in years. For the first time since his divorce, he could imagine a future that included not just him and Sophie, but someone else who could love them both exactly as they were. Gabriel should have expected the phone call from his mother, but somehow he had hoped his growing relationship with Naomi could develop quietly before facing family scrutiny. Carmen Torres had built her reputation on knowing everything that happened in their social circle, and Gabriel dating an event planner was apparently significant news. "Gabriel, darling, we need to talk," his mother said without preamble when he answered his phone Monday morning. "I'm hearing some very interesting stories about you and some woman at James's wedding." Gabriel sighed as he looked out his office window. "Good morning to you too, Mom. And her name is Naomi." "Yes, well, I think you should bring this Naomi person to dinner this Sunday so the family can meet her properly," Carmen continued in her imperious tone. "If you're going to be serious about someone, she needs to understand what it means to be part of the Torres family. Mom, Naomi and I are just getting to know each other. Don't you think family dinner is premature?" "Nonsense. Sophie is apparently talking about her constantly at school, which means this woman is already influencing my granddaughter. I need to evaluate whether she's suitable." Gabriel's jaw tightened at his mother's presumptuous attitude. "Suitable for what, exactly?" "For you and for Sophie, obviously. You can't just date anyone when you have a child to consider, especially a child with special needs. Sophie requires stability and proper influences." "Naomi is one of the most positive influences Sophie has ever had," Gabriel said firmly. "She's kind, intelligent, and genuinely cares about Sophie's well-being." "I'm sure she seems nice," Carmen said dismissively. "But what do you really know about her background? Her family? Her financial situation? You're a wealthy man, Gabriel, and Sophie will inherit considerable assets someday. You have to be careful about people's motivations." Gabriel felt anger rising in his chest. "Are you suggesting that Naomi is interested in me for my money?" "I'm suggesting that you need to be realistic about the differences between your worlds," his mother replied. "This woman works in event planning, which is hardly a serious career. What happens when you get tired of playing house with someone who can't contribute to your lifestyle? First of all, event planning is a legitimate business that Naomi has built from nothing," Gabriel said, his voice getting sharper. "Second, she's working on opening a community center for children with disabilities, which is more meaningful than half the charity boards you sit on." "Gabriel, you're being emotional about this," Carmen said in her most condescending tone. "I'm trying to protect you and Sophie from making a mistake. Bring her to dinner Sunday and we'll see what she's really made of." After ending the call, Gabriel sat in his office feeling frustrated and protective. He knew his family's tendency toward judgment and social snobbery, but he had hoped they would see Naomi's genuine qualities before making assumptions about her worthiness. The family dinner that Sunday was even worse than Gabriel had anticipated. His mother had invited not just his father and brother, but also his aunt and uncle, turning what should have been a casual meeting into a formal interrogation. Naomi arrived looking beautiful in a classic navy dress, carrying flowers for his mother and a small gift for Sophie. Gabriel could see her nervousness despite her gracious smile. "Mrs. Torres, thank you so much for inviting me," Naomi said warmly as she presented the flower arrangement. "Gabriel speaks about his family with such love." Carmen accepted the flowers with polite coolness. "How thoughtful. Please come meet everyone." The dinner conversation started innocuously enough, with questions about Naomi's work and her background. But Gabriel recognized the subtle probing that his family specialized in, designed to determine someone's social and financial status. "So your father was in construction?" Gabriel's Aunt Patricia asked with barely concealed disdain. "Yes, he worked very hard to provide for our family," Naomi replied with quiet dignity. "He taught me the value of honest work and treating people with respect." "And your mother was a nurse, you said?" Carmen continued the questioning. "That must have been challenging for your family financially." Gabriel saw Naomi's slight flinch at the implication that her family's middle-class background was somehow deficient. "My mother was an excellent nurse who saved lives and took care of people when they were most vulnerable. I'm very proud of both my parents." "Of course, dear," Carmen said with false sweetness. "It's just that Gabriel's world involves certain expectations and responsibilities that might be unfamiliar to someone from a different background." "What kind of responsibilities?" Naomi asked, though Gabriel could see she was beginning to understand the real purpose of this dinner. "Well, there are social obligations, charity events, business functions where Gabriel needs a partner who understands how to navigate those environments," Gabriel's uncle explained. "It's not really about being better or worse, just about being appropriate for the circumstances." Gabriel had heard enough. I think Naomi has demonstrated repeatedly that she knows how to handle any social situation with grace and intelligence, he said firmly. In fact, she's shown more class and compassion than anyone else at this table. An uncomfortable silence fell over the dining room. Sophie, who had been quietly coloring at the end of the table, looked up with confusion at the tension in the room. "Daddy, why is everyone being mean to Naomi?" Sophie asked innocently. "She's the nicest person we know." Gabriel's mother looked embarrassed at being called out by her granddaughter. "We're not being mean, sweetheart. We're just getting to know your father's friend." "But you're using your mean voices," Sophie observed with a child's clarity. And Naomi looked sad. Naomi had indeed gone quiet, clearly uncomfortable with being the center of such scrutiny and judgment. Gabriel could see that despite her efforts to remain gracious, his family's obvious disapproval was hurting her. "Sophie's right," Gabriel said, standing up from the table. "This conversation has become inappropriate and hurtful. Naomi, would you like to take a walk with Sophie and me?" As they prepared to leave, Gabriel's mother made one final attempt at control. "Gabriel, we're just trying to look out for your best interests. You have to consider what's best for Sophie's future." "What's best for Sophie is having people in her life who love and accept her unconditionally," Gabriel replied. "Something Naomi has shown and this family apparently struggles with." As they walked through the garden behind his parents' house, Sophie held Naomi's hand and chattered about the flowers, completely unaware of the adult drama that had just unfolded. "I'm sorry about my family," Gabriel said quietly to Naomi. "They had no right to treat you that way." "It's okay," Naomi replied, though her voice was subdued. "I understand their concerns about protecting you and Sophie. Their concerns are based on prejudice and snobbery, not legitimate worries about your character," Gabriel said firmly. "You've shown nothing but kindness and integrity since the moment we met you." "But maybe they have a point about our different backgrounds," Naomi said hesitantly. "I don't know anything about charity galas and business functions. What if I embarrass you?" Gabriel stopped walking and turned to face her directly. "Naomi, you could never embarrass me. You have more natural grace and genuine warmth than anyone I've ever known. If my family can't see that, it's their loss, not yours." Sophie looked up at both adults with concern. "Are you and Naomi going to stop being friends because Grandma was mean?" "No, Princess," Gabriel assured her. "Naomi and I are going to keep being friends no matter what anyone else thinks." As they continued their walk, Gabriel realized that his family's opposition had actually clarified something important for him. His feelings for Naomi were strong enough that he was willing to stand up to the people who had shaped his entire life. That realization both thrilled and terrified him, but it also felt absolutely right. 3 months had passed since the disastrous family dinner, but Gabriel's relationship with Naomi had only grown stronger despite his family's continued disapproval. They had fallen into a comfortable routine of shared dinners, weekend activities with Sophie, and long conversations about their dreams and hopes for the future. Gabriel had also quietly begun providing startup funding for Naomi's pilot program, which was set to launch the following month in a rented community center space. Naomi had initially protested his financial support, but Gabriel had convinced her to accept it as a business investment rather than charity. "The first workshop is next Saturday," Naomi told Gabriel as they watched Sophie practice walking without her walker in the park. "I'm nervous and excited and terrified all at the same time." "You're going to be amazing," Gabriel assured her. "The families are lucky to have someone who understands their needs so well." Sophie had been working with her physical therapist on building confidence in her independent walking, and she was determined to surprise Naomi with her progress. She carefully made her way across the grass to where they were sitting on the park bench. "Look, Naomi," Sophie called out proudly. "I can walk to you all by myself." "Sophie, that's incredible," Naomi said, jumping up to meet her with a congratulatory hug. "You've been working so hard and it shows." Gabriel watched the interaction with familiar warmth. Over the past few months, he had observed Naomi's natural maternal instincts with Sophie, and he had begun to imagine what it might be like if their relationship became more permanent. "Daddy," Sophie said as they prepared to leave the park, "can we ask Naomi something important?" "What kind of important question?" Gabriel asked, curious about what his daughter had been planning. "I want to ask if she wants to come to the Torres family reunion next month," Sophie announced. "So everyone can see how wonderful she is." Gabriel and Naomi exchanged glances. The family reunion would be an even bigger challenge than the dinner had been, with aunts, uncles, cousins and family friends all in attendance. "Sophie, I'm not sure the family reunion is the best place for Naomi to meet more of our relatives," Gabriel said gently. "Why not?" Sophie asked with genuine confusion. Family reunions are for people we love, and we love Naomi. From the mouths of babes, Gabriel thought. Sophie's simple logic cut straight through all the complicated adult concerns about social acceptance and family politics. I would love to come to your family reunion if your daddy thinks it's a good idea, Naomi said carefully. Gabriel made a decision that surprised even himself. You know what? Sophie's right. You're part of our lives now, and that means you're welcome at family events regardless of what anyone else thinks. The Torres family reunion was held at the country club, a venue that Gabriel's mother had chosen specifically to emphasize the family's social status. Gabriel arrived with Naomi and Sophie, determined to enjoy the afternoon regardless of any negative reactions they might encounter. Initially, the afternoon went better than expected. Gabriel's younger cousins welcomed Naomi warmly, and several family members complimented Sophie on how well she was walking. The children's area had been set up with adaptive games and activities, allowing Sophie to participate fully in the reunion fun. However, Patricia Blackwood had also been invited to the reunion as a longtime family friend, and she immediately recognized Naomi as the woman who had confronted her at the wedding. Well, Patricia said, approaching Gabriel and Naomi with malicious satisfaction. If it isn't the little event planner who thinks she belongs in our social circle. Gabriel tensed immediately, recognizing the woman who had been cruel to Sophie months earlier. Patricia, I don't believe you've been formally introduced to my girlfriend, Naomi Washington. Oh, we've met, Patricia said with a cold smile. She's the one who pretended to be your daughter's mother to cover up the child's embarrassing behavior. She protected Sophie from your cruelty, Gabriel corrected sharply. Something I'll always be grateful for. Gabriel, surely you can see that this woman is just using you, Patricia continued, raising her voice so that nearby family members began to pay attention. She targeted your daughter as a way to get close to your money. It's the oldest trick in the book. Naomi had remained silent during this exchange, but Gabriel could see the hurt and anger building in her eyes. Before he could respond, Sophie appeared at their side, having heard the familiar voice of the woman who had been mean to her. You're the bad lady from the wedding, Sophie said clearly, her young voice carrying across the suddenly quiet area. You said mean things about me, and Naomi protected me. Patricia looked uncomfortable at being called out by a child in front of the assembled family members. I was simply trying to teach you proper behavior. No, you weren't, Sophie said with the honesty that only children possess. You were being mean because you don't like people who are different. But Naomi said I'm perfect just the way I am. Gabriel's heart swelled with pride at his daughter's courage in confronting her tormentor. But Sophie wasn't finished. Naomi didn't pretend to be my mama to trick Daddy, Sophie continued, her voice getting stronger. She pretended to be my mama because she loves me and wanted to keep me safe. That's what real mamas do. The assembled family members were now fully focused on the confrontation, and Gabriel could see his mother approaching with obvious concern about the scene being created. And you know what? Sophie added, looking directly at Patricia. Naomi would make the best mama ever, because she's kind and smart and she makes people feel happy. Not like you who makes people feel bad. Patricia's face turned red with embarrassment and anger. This is exactly what I mean about inappropriate influences, she said to Gabriel's mother, who had reached their group. This child has no respect for her elders. This child has respect for people who deserve it, Gabriel said firmly, putting his arm around Sophie's shoulders. And she can clearly tell the difference between someone who cares about her well-being and someone who enjoys hurting others. Carmen Torres looked between Patricia and Naomi uncertainly. The public nature of the confrontation was making her uncomfortable, but Sophie's passionate defense of Naomi was also making it difficult to maintain her opposition. Sophie, honey, why don't you tell everyone exactly what happened at the wedding? Naomi said gently, giving the little girl permission to share her story. Sophie took a deep breath and addressed the growing crowd of family members. The mean lady said I was clumsy and that I shouldn't be at nice places. She said Daddy should be ashamed of me and that I was embarrassing the family. She made me cry. Gasps of shock and disapproval rippled through the assembled relatives. Even Carmen Torres looked appalled at Patricia's reported behavior. Then Naomi came over and told the mean lady to stop being cruel, Sophie continued. When the mean lady asked who I belonged to, Naomi said I was her daughter so the mean lady would leave me alone. Naomi saved me. Gabriel watched as the family members' expressions shifted from skepticism about Naomi to anger toward Patricia. His brother James stepped forward with obvious disgust. Patricia, is this true? Did you really attack a 7-year-old child at my wedding? Patricia tried to deflect. I was simply addressing inappropriate behavior. There's nothing inappropriate about a child with a disability existing in public spaces, Gabriel's aunt interrupted angrily. How dare you speak to our Sophie that way? As the family members began to close ranks around Sophie and, by extension, Naomi, Gabriel realized that his daughter had accomplished something he had been unable to do. She had shown his family exactly who Naomi really was and why she deserved their respect and acceptance. Carmen Torres approached Naomi with obvious remorse. I owe you an apology, she said formally. I misjudged your character, and I'm grateful that you protected my granddaughter when she needed help. Thank you, Naomi replied graciously. Sophie is an amazing little girl, and I'm honored to be part of her life. As Patricia made a hasty exit from the reunion, clearly unwelcome after her behavior was exposed, Gabriel felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The truth had finally come out, and his family had seen Naomi's true character rather than their prejudiced assumptions. Daddy, Sophie said quietly as the crowd began to disperse. Does this mean Naomi can come to all our family parties now? Yes, Princess, Gabriel replied, looking at Naomi with love and admiration. I think it definitely means that. 1 year later, Gabriel stood in the same ballroom where he had first met Naomi, but everything felt completely different. The space had been transformed with soft lighting, white flowers, and the same twinkling lights that had decorated their first official date. Today it would become the setting for their wedding. The Sunshine Community Center had been open for 8 months and was already serving over 60 families in the area. Gabriel's initial investment had been joined by funding from other sources once word spread about the innovative programming and genuine impact the center was making in children's lives. Daddy, you look very handsome, Sophie said as she adjusted his boutonniere with careful precision. At 8 years old, she had become even more confident and independent, though she still used her walker for longer distances. Thank you, Princess. Are you ready for your big job today? Gabriel asked, straightening his tie nervously. I'm ready, Sophie announced proudly. I practiced walking down the aisle 50 times this week, and I know exactly where to drop the flower petals. Gabriel's mother appeared in the doorway of the small preparation room, looking elegant in her mother-of-the-groom dress. Over the past year, Carmen Torres had not only accepted Naomi but had become one of her strongest supporters, even joining the board of the community center. The guests are all seated, Carmen reported. Naomi looks absolutely beautiful, by the way. You're a very lucky man. I know, Gabriel replied sincerely. I still can't believe she said yes. I can, Sophie said matter-of-factly. She loves us and we love her. That's how families are supposed to work. Gabriel knelt down to Sophie's level, taking her small hands in his. Sophie, I want you to know that marrying Naomi doesn't change anything about how much I love you. You'll always be my first priority. I know that, Daddy, Sophie said with the wisdom of a child who had never doubted her father's love. But now we get to have Naomi be part of our family forever. That makes us even better. Gabriel felt tears prick his eyes at his daughter's simple acceptance of their expanding family unit. You're absolutely right, Princess. The music began, signaling that it was time for the ceremony to start. Gabriel made his way to the altar, where his brother James waited as his best man. The same space where Patricia Blackwood had once tormented Sophie now held family and friends who had come to celebrate love, acceptance, and the power of kindness. Sophie began her walk down the aisle, moving slowly but confidently without her walker, dropping pink and white flower petals with careful precision. The guests smiled and applauded softly as she made her way to the front, beaming with pride at her important role. Then the music changed and Naomi appeared at the back of the aisle. Gabriel's breath caught in his throat as he saw his bride. She wore a simple but elegant dress that flowed as she walked, and her face glowed with happiness and love. Her best friend Carmen Rodriguez walked beside her as maid of honor, both women radiating joy. As Naomi made her way toward him, Gabriel thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. What had started with Naomi protecting Sophie from cruelty had grown into a love that encompassed their entire family and extended outward to touch the lives of dozens of other families through their work. When Naomi reached the altar, Gabriel took her hands and looked into her eyes. You look absolutely beautiful, he whispered. So do you, she whispered back, her eyes sparkling with tears of happiness. The ceremony was officiated by Pastor Williams from Naomi's childhood church, who had known her since she was Sophie's age. He spoke about the different ways that families are formed and the importance of love that extends beyond biological connections. Gabriel and Naomi, Pastor Williams said, your love story began with an act of protection and kindness. Today you're promising to continue protecting and caring for each other and for Sophie for the rest of your lives. When it came time for vows, Gabriel spoke first. Naomi, you came into our lives at exactly the moment we needed you most. You showed Sophie that the world contains people who will stand up for her, and you showed me what it means to love someone completely. I promise to support your dreams, to be your partner in all things, and to love you and Sophie with everything I have. Naomi's vows brought tears to many eyes in the audience. Gabriel, you and Sophie taught me that family is about choosing to love and support each other every single day. Gabriel, you've shown me what it means to be cherished and respected. Sophie, you've shown me what it means to be brave and joyful. I promise to be the best wife and mother I can be, to support our family's dreams, and to love you both forever. When Pastor Williams pronounced them husband and wife, Gabriel and Naomi's kiss was interrupted by Sophie's excited clapping. Now we're a real family, she announced to the assembled guests. The reception was filled with laughter, dancing, and celebration. The Torres family had completely embraced Naomi, and her friends and colleagues from the community center mingled easily with Gabriel's business associates and family members. During the father-daughter dance, Gabriel danced with both his wife and his daughter, Sophie standing on his feet as they swayed to the music while Naomi held them both close. This is the best day ever, Sophie declared as the song ended. It really is, Naomi agreed, kissing the top of Sophie's head. Later in the evening, as the celebration wound down, Gabriel and Naomi found a quiet moment together on the same garden terrace where they had sat during their first meeting. Can you believe we're actually married? Naomi asked, leaning against her husband's shoulder. Sometimes it feels like a dream, Gabriel admitted. A year ago, I never imagined I could be this happy. What do you think the future holds for the Torres family? Naomi asked playfully. I think we're going to change a lot of lives through the community center, Gabriel said thoughtfully. I think Sophie is going to grow up knowing she's loved and supported no matter what challenges she faces. And I think we're going to build something beautiful together. Sophie appeared on the terrace, having escaped from the supervision of her grandmother. Can I dance with you both one more time? She asked. So the three of them danced together under the stars, a family brought together by kindness and sealed by love. Gabriel knew that whatever challenges they might face in the future, they would face them together with hope, compassion, and the unshakable foundation of unconditional love. As they danced, Naomi thought about her mother and how proud she would have been to see this day. Her dreams of helping children with special needs had come true, and she had found a family that completed her in ways she had never imagined possible. The evening ended with Gabriel carrying a sleepy Sophie to the car while Naomi gathered her bouquet and said final goodbyes to their guests. Patricia Blackwood had sent a large donation to the community center along with a note of apology, having learned about the power of kindness through watching the Torres family's example. Do you believe that kindness and love can really overcome all obstacles? What would you do to protect someone you care about? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more inspiring stories that prove love always wins. As they drove home as a family for the first time, Sophie fell asleep in her car seat, exhausted from the excitement of the day. Gabriel and Naomi held hands in the front seat, both feeling grateful for the unexpected path that had brought them together. I love our story, Naomi said softly as they pulled into their driveway. Me too, Gabriel agreed. And I can't wait to see what the next chapter brings. The house they had chosen together was fully accessible for Sophie and close to both the community center and Gabriel's office. As they carried their sleeping daughter inside and tucked her into her new bedroom, both parents knew that they had created something special. A family built on love, acceptance, and the belief that every person deserves to be treated with dignity and kindness. Their love story had begun with an act of protection and had grown into a force that was making their community a better place for all families. And as they settled into their new life together, the Torres family knew that their greatest adventures were still ahead of them, guided by the simple but powerful principles of hope, kindness, and unconditional love.